What is up, everyone? I hope you guys are having a fantastic evening. I am not coming at you from the studio tonight, but rather our secondary studio here in Northern Kentucky, Greater Cincinnati area. I'm going to give us a few moments to have some friends join us here. Looks like a few of you are jumping on now. Gonna just give us everybody a few moments and we'll dive in. I've got about 10 to 15 minutes of things to go over with you. Then obviously going to answer all your questions if you have any. Really excited to kick this service off. It's something I've been talking about for quite some time. So I'm pretty pumped to see what you guys think and if you think it'll be a nice value add. Got about 8 of you on right now. Who's joining me this evening? Anybody want to jump into the chat and get a sense for who is joining us tonight? Oh, that's weird. Hi, Sue. How are you? Hi, Dan, Jim. Good to see you guys. All right. Hi, Jason. Thanks for joining. You need this service. Mark, good to see you. I'm excited to do it. We're going to walk through everything, meaning all the ups, the downs, all the goods, and I'm here to answer all your questions, hang out for a little bit. We will get another break listed tomorrow. We wanted to really clear up some time for this, and I needed a day to mourn the loss of Joey Burrow, so now I'm over it. All right, well, let's get started here. About 15 of you watching, and I'm excited to share a little bit more about what we've been doing and working on here at Hit Seekers. So as you saw in the post yesterday, we are launching PSA group submission services in partnership with Jim Mint or Wax Pack Nation. It's the same company. Jared Landers is the founder over there. And the reason that we're doing this is because I recognize how important grading cards is to me. And I also recognize how difficult that world can be to navigate. So what I'm going to say is, as I go through this, I'm going to walk through the site. I'm going to walk through the process, all the things that you'll have to do in order to make this work. I'm going to kick this off by saying one thing. I'm really excited to do this with you guys because I think that we can drive some really unique value through our breaks and work together on getting cards submitted for you faster. I can only tell you, I'm experiencing this live right now. I had spent a lot of time as soon as Mosaic came out to acquire quite a few Joe Burrow cards that are sitting at PSA right now, and surely those values have changed since they've been there. So we know that the time to submit is important, and we think that by working with us as we break here, we can do some really unique things with them. So with that, I'm going to walk you through the process and walk you through a little bit of how we're thinking about things. Obviously, ask questions along the way. I'm here to answer them. And I will say, first and foremost, to kick this thing off, the first thing I'll say is, can you submit directly to Jim Mint? Yes, 100%. Join his group, submit with him. That's perfectly fine. We are doing this because I think that there's a community to be had, and I've been really impressed with the community that we've built here at Hit Seekers. And as we continue to grow, I think that we can offer a little bit of extra value. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. If you see me looking in an odd way, it's because my second screen is over to the right. So here we go. Here is our website, and I'm going to make myself small, not the website small, myself small, so that you guys can see what I'm clicking on here. And what I want to show you is obviously our website. We've added a tab up here called PSA Submission. And if you click on that tab, you'll see a very lengthy article, which I'm going to dive into here in a second, and primarily dive into the key points that you need to know for submitting with PSA. The big thing I'm going to share about this, though, is there's two pieces that really matter. The first is the submission form, and the second is the submission portal. And so what I mean by the submission form is if you guys are submitting cards to us that are not broken with us, like just out of your collection that you want us to go ahead and submit off to PSA on your behalf, you're going to want to download this submission form. So when you click this link, it's going to take you over to this PSA card submission template. Once you're on the submission template, all you're going to do is click File and make a copy or download. Either way, whichever you would prefer to do. If you make a copy, you share it with us. If you download it, it puts it on your hard drive. And that's where you're going to enter in the name, the card year, the card details, and then this submission time. Don't worry too much about the submission time because, like I said, I plan to work with you after reviewing your cards, talking to you about what each of the I'm sorry, somebody's saying nothing is showing. What do you mean nothing is showing? Can you not see my screen? I'm going to wait for 1 second here. Let's see. Give me some help on the chat here. Can you guys see my screen? Okay, it's there now. All right, fantastic. All right. So great. Thanks, Dave. I appreciate it. So yeah, there might be a little bit of a delay. So if there is a delay, we are certainly going to be able to work through that. And so what I am working through on this is essentially what I want to know is what are you sending me? Because we need to know we really need to know what's coming in your order so that when I go to check it and enter it into the system, that we know what it is. All this will go ahead and automatically populate. And like I said, I'm not terribly worried about making sure that this is completely right, just as long as you tell me the number of cards and what cards you're actually sending. Because again, there's some checks and balances here, right? I want to make sure that we're submitting the exact same thing and that we know as we're going back and forth that I receive everything that you are intending to ship. So that's the first one, the PSA submission card template. After you're done with the template, and I'm going to give it a second to switch over. After you're done with the template, you're going to click on the submission portal. And that submission portal, 1 second, I'm going to turn off. Sorry. The submission portal is this loads, is basically just a triggered system for telling me what that your order is on its way. Simple name, email, phone, number of cards you're submitting. And again, this doesn't have to be completely accurate, but doing what you can to give me a heads up of what's coming. If you want to give me the package tracking number, great. I'll be tracking it. And then anything else you'd like to know. And then clicking this button, you'll upload that exact document. It'll send over directly to me, and then we'll begin working on it as soon as everything appears. So with that, what matters and what's important to know as we are working through this together? So a couple things to think about here. First and foremost is pricing. Pricing is important to know. I've got that right here on the sheet. We are offering the exact same pricing that Jared offers. 45 business day service is anywhere from $14 to $18 a card, depending upon the timeline. 20 business day service is $28 a card, and 10 business day service is $55 a card. On top of that, we hit seekers are going to charge $4 per card to prep them. And what does that mean? It means that I'm going to go through and review them and tell you what I think they're going to grade. Why is that important? I'm not a PSA grader. I'll be the first to tell you that. But it is incredibly important because it'll allow you to make some decisions on your cards. Meaning, if you're going to send a bunch of cards 20 day and it doesn't look like they've got a huge shot at getting a 10, you may want to downgrade them to a 45 day submission and save yourself $10 a card. This is a strategy that I use pretty consistently as I work with Jared and myself and some friends as I talk through different grading strategies and how we go through all of that. The way the card review is going to work is that after I get your cards in and I get that document, I'm going to basically add a column to it that shows you what I think the card will grade. We'll go back and forth and get everything submitted. Now, there's one thing I want to add about this, and it's something I've joked about with a lot of people. Specifically, I've even joked as I've broken with many of you. It's that the reality is that PSA really needs the name of their service. And so what does that mean? Well, 45 business day, 20 business day, and 10 business day is not even remotely close to what things are taking right now. And so I cannot control how long it takes cards to be graded at PSA. What I will tell you, though, is that as we work with Jared to submit through him, what you're going to get is basically text notifications as your cards move through every single step of the way. And that's why that phone number is so important. Now, I put this out here because this is based on my experience. And mind you, I still currently have about 600 cards sitting at PSA with a box right here of about another 65 or 70 ready to go, although a lot of those are Joe Burrow. So I'm not sure how I'm approaching that yet. But what we will do is, but what I wanted to share is that, the service times are completely different. So for instance, a 45 business day submission is taking roughly 6 to 8 months. It is not being prioritized. While it is the least expensive, if you're looking to sell that card anytime in the next 6 to 8 months, I would not submit 45 day. I only use 45-day subs for two things. One, if I'm submitting a card for the next season. So like, for instance, I submitted a bunch of Bowman at the beginning of May, 45-day, because I didn't need them until spring of next year. Number two is if it's for my PC, meaning I just like the card. I want it. I want it in a slab. I want it protected. And I don't care when I get it back. The kicker there, though, is that there's also a dollar value trigger, meaning if you send a Luka Doncic 2018 Prism rookie and it gets a PSA 10, if you send that 45-day, they're going to upcharge you, which means they're going to charge you for 10-day anyway because the value of the card exceeds the maximum value of each individual level. Again, we'll go through all of this. Part of me working with you guys and offering this service is to make sure that you don't get upcharged because there's nothing worse. There's nothing worse than waiting 4 or 5 months to pay a 10-day service fee. Next is 20-day. 20-day is taking roughly 2 to 3 months from start to finish. These are decently okay to submit in season as long as you're in early to mid season and if you want to get them back and sell in season. And then lastly is 10-day. The 10-day submission is running largely on time. And so what does that mean? It means that they're taking roughly from start to finish about 30 days, meaning from the time that the cards are received to the time that you get them back in your house or, in your possession is roughly 30 days. I know that's a lot to take in. And I know that those are, the times are really, really difficult, but it is what we deal with. And that's, again, why I think this service is kind of important. And so what I wanted to do here is I wanted to chat a little bit through any questions you guys had, as well as really just see if you guys have any questions and kind of go through any of that. So I'm going to turn off the screen here so I don't have to worry about that anymore. There we go. All right. So again, I'm going to post this again in a graphic. The other thing I want to add, and I meant to add this as I showed you how to navigate the site a little bit. One thing we will be doing is as we break, specifically as I think about Prism football and weeks coming of Prism football, As we break those cards, we will basically be working with you to offer this service. So if they're already in our possession, we're going to work with you to avoid you having to ship them home just to ship them back out if you want to do it. And so, again, I think that it's a really unique value add and something that we can do together to help kind of grow our collections and hopefully navigate the grading world a little bit easier. So with that, are there any questions about grading or what we're doing here at HitSeekers with grading services? Any questions at all? What if two people submit the same card? That's a great question. So what we'll be doing, and this is really, really important, is we will be submitting these cards on independent orders. And so what that means is that basically the way that I set this up, and I'm trying to see if I have a process here. Like here's a good example. So in this box right here, there's about, I don't know, 50, 60 cards. This is one order. And so we separate that out. Those cards are going to stay with each other in the order that you submit them to me on their way to PSA. And so we won't have any mix-ups or anything with respect to cards that are duplicate. So that's the main way, just mainly. All right, guys, I think I'm back. Hold on one second. I've never had that happen before. Never had a computer die while it's plugged in. So it looks like I am back. I believe, and I don't think I'm going to go back and click through your guys' chat questions so that I have them and we can answer them here as I look through it. Yes, it looks like I'm back. Okay. All right. So I think I lost. Hold on one second. I think I lost some of the questions, but let me look real quick. I've just never seen that happen before. I've never seen my computer. I'm running like a computer that would be good at streaming. It's a MacBook Pro, but I've never seen a computer shut off. Okay, so why don't we just come back at it? The one question I do see on here is from Susan, saying that when she's looked at cards on eBay that are graded, she's finding that Beckett are being bid for a higher price than PSA. And so the thing I'll add about the reason we're going with PSA and not BGS is that there's definitely a hierarchy. So a BGS 10 graded card, 10 pristine, is the single highest grade you can get. But it's so unlikely that anyone gets that grade that PSA has become the de facto leader. Because a PSA 10, it goes BGS 10, PSA 10, BGS 9.5, PSA 9, and then so on and so forth. You can add an SGC in there a little bit. I actually wrote a blog post on this on the Hit Seekers blog back a few days ago, or not a few days ago, a few months ago when we first got kicked off. So if you take a look at it, PSA 10 is very reasonable and I won't say easy to hit, but much easier to hit than a PSA 10 pristine. So I hope that answers your question. The other question was, if we send from our personal collection and send it to you, we need to make sure that we properly insure it. And they wanted insistence on determining value. Okay, so great question. The insurance piece is definitely one that we'll be working on and working with you on, because there's an option to have your cards insured if you want them insured back to you or throughout the entire process. What I recommend doing is taking a look at the card, looking at what you think it will get, meaning take a look at the centering. Again, I wrote a blog post on this. Read that blog post, take a look at it. Any corner damage, any white on the corners, dings on the corners, assume it's going to get an 8, at best a 9. And then go to eBay. And when you go to eBay, click on the sold auctions, take a look at what's already sold out there, and determine your value. Again, as I mentioned, it's a crapshoot. I mean, I submitted, I mean, I'm kind of nervous about saying this, but I submitted about 4 Joe Burrow silver and autos from Select XRC. And so if they tend, they're probably $2,000 to $4,000 a piece prior to him blowing out his knee yesterday. And so values can be very subjective. But one of the things that I'm going to help you with throughout this entire process is helping you make sure that you're not over or under submitting your values. Again, that's part of the preview grade that I'll provide. Any other questions? Again, I'm sorry that the stream fell off. Again, I've never seen a computer go down while it's plugged in, but first time for everything, I presume. You're more than welcome to reach out to us as well. I'm probably going to do a recording on this so that there's one quick, easy way to understand just kind of the ins and outs. But feel free to message us. Hit us up on Facebook Messenger. We measure. We monitor that pretty closely. Here's another question. While I'll likely first submit just a few 10-day turnaround cards, I have a larger secondary batch that it might make sense to discuss before mailing all off to you. Is there a benefit of submitting a list if we have questions whether certain cards are worth grading? Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. And I'm happy to take a look at that. And I'm going to tell you I'm going to give you my opinion. And the first thing, if you've ever noticed in the chat or really in the Facebook group, um, in the Facebook group, when somebody asks, should I grade this? My response to that question is every single time going to be, what is your plan with the card? That's it. If your plan is to sell the card, grading is almost always the answer, because grading a card just makes the card extremely more liquid. It takes out the question mark of, oh, is the card in good condition? Is the surface good? Is the centering good? All those things you can't really tell on eBay. Just makes the cards a lot easier to sell, and it also makes the pricing more stable. So to answer your question, I will tell you, if I think your cards are worth sending to be graded, primarily when they come to me is when I'll do that. If you send me a list and I get a bunch of lists, I'll get to them as I can. But I will tell you that I'm certainly going to tell you whether or not I think your cards are worth grading. And the way that I'll do that, I use a couple of tools. So I don't just use eBay. If any of you are familiar, I subscribe to Market Movers, which is an online data tool from Sports Card Investor. It's a really unique tool. If you've never seen it, I'd pull it up here and show you a screenshot of it if I didn't think it would crash the computer again. But maybe I'll do that. Maybe every once in a while we'll go live and just talk about the general state of the card market, and I can run you through some of the data that I look at. But what that tool does is it shows and charts in real time eBay sales like stocks. And so you can see, a Zion Williamson PSA 10, really was peaking in August, really came down quite a bit. And now if you guys aren't, if any of you are primarily basketball collectors, I'm incredibly excited and encouraged by what I see right now, because we're seeing an incredible comeback of the basketball market, like in a massive way. And I'm excited for what that's going to mean when the season's intact here in December. Oh, that's a great question. So the question was primarily, do we send to you, then pay after you look at them, or do we pay as soon as we send? So this is the key to this entire process working. You don't have to pay for the cards until just before the grades pop. And I think that's fantastic for a lot of reasons. Number one, because, if you have to prepay to get all your cards graded, not only are you going to have a lot of money tied up in cards, you're going to have a lot of money tied up in grading fees. And so at least when you pay right before the grades pop, the cards are going to be in your hands in no more than 2 weeks. And so when that happens, for instance, I've got a 10-day sub that, again, has a lot of Joe Burrows in it. But I subbed it 10-day, and it's about 40 cards. It's about $2,200 in grading fees. If I had to outlay that on top of all the value of the cards, I wouldn't be grading nearly as much. So that's at least one good thing. The way we'll handle that is I'll send an invoice, and this will be really clear throughout the process. I'll send an invoice as soon as everything is ready to go for the total amount of the value. I don't foresee any issues. You guys have been a great group breaking with us. We've only had maybe 2 or 3 total issues with non-payment in the 5 months that we've been doing this. But what I will say pretty clearly is if cards aren't paid for within a week of that invoice being sent, or at least a dialogue at most, then we're gonna pay it for you, and we're gonna keep the cards and sell them ourselves. So we're gonna have to keep a very open dialogue around that payment, but you'll get an invoice. You have plenty of time to pay it. And more importantly, as I said, you're going to have text messages along the way that show you where your cards are in the steps, which I think is one of the coolest reasons that I work with Jared and why we are subbing through his bulk sub, because again, better pricing and the fact that he built an entire technology layer on top of PSA. And so I'll be sitting in a meeting at work for my full-time job, and then I'll get a text message that says your grades just popped, and I'm like, oh, it's pretty cool. So it's a nice little thing. Oh, that's a great question. The downside of submitting multiple cards at the same time. Really, really great question. I say no. I say no for a lot of reasons. Number one, we should be able to work with you on making sure that you don't sub, a wide range of cards. So let's, for instance, if you've got 5 or 6 Kyle Lewis Bowman rookies, or even Bowman first Bowmans, if it looks like you're going to get 2 8s, 2 9s, and a 10, then I'm probably going to work with you and say, let's sub the 9s and 10s together, because then you can catch. I mean, it's real. It's a human process. You can catch a grader on a good day, and he gives them all 10s. You can also catch him on a bad day. I mean, I'll tell you a quick story. I have a Tom Brady Bowman Chrome rookie sitting at PSA for the 3rd time, and it's a part of this order. It's a part of this order that's coming back. The card looks perfect to me, and I've heard all of the rumors about PSA doing population control, but I submitted it the first time, and I'm like, this is either a 9 or a 10, no doubt, and it got an 8, and I'm like, oh, I was disappointed. I mean, but the rest of that grading order was really low graded. Like, cards that were clearly much better condition did not grade well. So I basically, Jared has a tool, and I'm not going to get too much into this service with you guys, but Jared has a tool that he can crack cards out of slabs. So I sent it back to him, and I said, crack it and resubmit it. And it came back a 9. And I'm like, all right, I'm happy with a 9, but I still think this is a 10. I mean, that card, it's beautiful. And so I had him crack it and resubmit it, and it's a part of this order again. So what I'm saying is, again, I'm going to give you my opinions, and I've gotten pretty close. I'm usually within 1 grade, high or low. So that helps, pretty much. The next question, understand that we don't pay you until the grade's ready to pop, but when do we pay the $4? So the $4, it's all going to come in one invoice. Realistically, I think this is going to help, really bolster all of this together. And so when it's time to send that one invoice, again, when you send me that submission document, I'm going to send it back to you with my preview of grades. It'll have an invoice total on it, and we'll go from there. So as the grades pop, you'll get an invoice, and that's when we'll handle all the grades going out to you guys. What other questions do we have? You're right. I think I agree with you. I think it would be fun. Maybe once a month. I don't know. I got to figure out my time, but it would be fun to get on here, once a month for an hour and maybe do like just a state of the market and what we're seeing in terms of, wax prices, like the way that we buy. So I think my dad's mentioned this to you guys for breaking. I primarily handle the acquisition of all of the sealed wax, and the fluctuations in those values are crazy. And so it's, the Brady experience. Well, that's, you could say it's an experience. I think I'm a little bit more compulsive, if you will, but I believe in my heart that's a 10. It's a PSA 10, and if it's a PSA 10, it's a $10,000 card by the end of the season. So great question. So to answer your question about Card Saver ones, if you want to send them to me in Card Saver ones, you're more than welcome to. I will tell you, part of the we'll call it a prep fee, if you will, is that I put them in Card Saver ones for you, because you have to, in order to submit them to PSA, they got to be in Card Saver ones. So I just ordered a couple cases of those, and that comes with that $4 fee. But if you want to send them to me in Card Saver ones, I'll review them and make sure that everything looks clean before sending them off, and they'll at least be taken out to be reviewed and then wiped as well. So you get a basic wipe, which is, again, I want to make this very clear as well, because I know there's been a lot of, rumors or shadiness around. There's a lot of rumors about people who they wipe away surface scratches, which means they're using like an epoxy laminate. That is clearly against PSA's guidelines. I will not be doing that. Your cards will be wiped, and what that means is they're going to be basically wiped of any hand smudges. It's a very significantly soft microfiber cloth that prevents any surface damage, but it'll clean up any smudges. And so if Jared were to get caught, using that type of epoxy on a card, his license would be pulled. He wouldn't be able to bulk sub. And as I mentioned, he subs probably, I want to say the last time he told me it was like 10,000 cards a month, I think, something like that. So it's pretty crazy. Yeah, great question. So 1950s to current. Here's what I'll say about the 1950s to current or send simultaneously. My goal, if you guys just fill out that document with the year, the player, the card number, so on and so forth, I will work with each of you and I will make sure that it gets subbed appropriately. Meaning I'm going to work with you. I'm going to work with you to make sure that, to break them up in between each one. Somebody asked about those. So these are card saver ones. Just this. These are what they are, and they're basically just top loaders. Let me see if I got an example here. Yeah, here. Let me show you. So this is a card in a card saver one. It's a Gavin Lux from Contenders, optic cracked ice out of 25. But the reason they suggest sending cards like this is because they don't move. So it's not as firm as a top loader. I don't like storing my PC in them, but it is nice to ship cards. How ideally should we send them to you if not in card savers? You can send them in top loaders. I want to ask, please, for the love of God, do not tape the top of your top loaders. Please don't. Invest in some team bags. Put the top loaders in team bags and send them to me that way so the cards don't move around. Taping top loaders is like a personal peeve of mine, if you will. All right. Any other questions, guys? Like I said, please, feel free, message us on Facebook. You can send an email, jake@hitseekerscardbreaks.com. I think that's on the website as well. And so happy to kind of chat back and forth with you guys. And I know I've had conversations with many of you guys on the phone. I have no problem. Like, as long as you're flexible with the timing. At times the day job can be a little demanding. So as long as you're flexible on the timing, we can hop on the phone and chat through it. So great question. They will what get shipped back? The PSA cards or the top loaders? And yes, to answer your question, you can. This opens and begins beginning tonight. So feel free to get started. We're going to start taking orders as soon as you guys are ready to submit them. As we break, again, one thing that's important to us is making sure that we don't delay our shipping procedure. And so because we don't delay the shipping procedure, we're going to have to figure out the best way to get information from you guys if you want your cards graded from a break. But we're going to work through that, and we'll get it right for sure. Great question. I believe the graded cards will come back to me, and then I will ship them out to you. But what I will say is I say that as tentative because I know Jared was working on a path to having them shipped from PSA directly to you. So once I understand that more, I will get that information out to you guys. He works really hard on this online portal. And so once he unleashes that feature, I'm sure we'll roll it out as well. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. The potential 10K plus card. So here's what I'll say about that, because I've done it quite frequently, especially as I ship my cards down to him. What I will tell you, and this is one of the reasons I like the bulk sub anyway. I overnight everything to him. I only use UPS primarily because at the time, there was a lot of questions about the USPS and all of that. But that being said, that is really important to me. So I'll walk you through that process. I'm doing it pretty frequently as well, so I get the fear of the 10K plus card. Yeah, right now we are only doing PSA, primarily because I like to stick with just one, and there are a lot of guys that are doing BGS. I don't know anything about that system, so PSA is what we're going to offer right now. Great question on the relic thicker cards and that they don't fare well. So again, I'll ask the question: what do you plan to do with the card? I think I have one here. I got one I can show you. So this is a thicker card. So this is a Ken Griffey Jr. It's a little bright. Let me see if I can. There we go. This is a Ken Griffey Jr. Transcendent Auto, and it's thick. It came in a PSA thick sleeve, and so it got a 9. I thought for sure it was going to get a 10. It's a really clean card, but yes, thicker cards are definitely harder to grade. Now, what I will say though is that typically with thicker cards, the grade doesn't matter as much, and so if you're grading, like here's a prime example. I picked this up on eBay. Again, wish I would have waited a little bit, but that's a Joe Burrow RPA at a 20. And so I picked that up on eBay. And so I don't need that card to 10 for it to be incredibly valuable. You just need to lock it in. Like it's not only about the grade, it's also about the fact that these are really protected once they're in these slabs. So there are some cards, like when I'll talk to you guys through this, like for your PC, if your PC is, Ryan Sandberg, for instance, then, if you really just collect Ryan Sandberg and you got a bunch of them and you want to protect that collection to pass it on to your kids or whatever that may be, then sometimes grading them is a good option. Even if it doesn't get the best grade, it's still going to protect it for time and time to come. So, all right. Well, again, I appreciate it. You guys have been fantastic. I think this is going to be a great way for us to continue to grow our group. We've got a meeting coming up here in a few weeks to talk more about the community aspect. We want to try to find a way to, again, be more community driven with you guys so that we can share ideas and tips and tricks and those sorts of things. And so we're working through all of that. And tomorrow we will list another break. We'll be football driven. As we get ready for Prism football, we're gonna be working together on getting this grading up and going. So with that, guys, again, I really appreciate all you've done with us, and we will talk soon. Thanks again, Hit Seekers. Talk to you later. Have a good evening.